Why do you need a teacher for an online class? Well, the main reason is somebody still has to design the learning environment. If you're taking a course, there's someone, an instructional designer or a teacher behind that course that actually decided what the learning outcomes were, what the materials that needed to be accessed to achieve the learning outcomes, what kind of activities you might need to do to demonstrate that you'd reach those learning outcomes. Now, it is true that you can somewhat automate some of these kinds of things, especially if you're teaching a course where you could do multiple choice quizzes, or if it's a mathematics-based course where you could do a lot of calculations and there is one right answer. Then you can certainly design assessments that would more automatically give students feedback on if they were right or wrong, what they need to do next. However, from the teacher's standpoint, it takes a lot more work on the front end to design those things. So it may be a different distribution of work to where the teacher is doing mostly the designing of the instruction, getting everything ready, creating all the assessments, and then the student is going through that. But at some point, the teacher is going back and either giving feedback directly to students, grading, if you will, certain things. They still need to be monitoring students' activity, prompting students that maybe aren't involved and aren't getting some of the things done that they need to finish, and then answering questions, because even if you think you've explained something very well, a student may go into the next assignment thinking, what? So as a teacher, you're constantly looking for the questions students have, answering those, assessing their work, prompting them to go to the next level, and in the end, finally giving them a grade. That said, if you've designed a course for multiple users, I've been experimenting with teaching larger groups of students. Then as a teacher, you do more on the front end to figure out, well, how can I design this so people can sort of move through it with a more minimum amount of interjection from me as the course goes on.
In the end, it's a course. It is, for my level, it is a university course. And just because they're not in the classroom doesn't mean that they don't need an expert. And the fact of the matter is, they're taking it because they're not experts. And what they're paying for is not the platform. They're paying for access to my expertise. And if they don't have access to an expert, then they're not going to do well. That's all there is to it.
If you're doing your work online, you need a teacher as sort of a guide to completing your assignments. A teacher can help you distinguish what sources are good sources or bad sources, whereas if you just go on your own with the internet, you may not have the tools to properly distinguish between what's a good source and what's a bad source to use for a paper or a worksheet.
Teachers are really important no matter what. I may be a little biased in saying that because I'm an ed major, but I mean, there's a reason for that. Teachers they're an expert in their field. They spend a lot of time and a lot of effort into their training, into learning everything that they can about their field, into trying to become a really good teacher. And that doesn't stop once they're not in person. They still know all their stuff. They still know everything they're talking about. They still know how to teach. They're just doing it in a different way than in person.